I mean, this just, man. Now, granted, I came in late, because technical difficulties and other distractions. I got to watch about an hour in, and I caught a few things about it after the fact. With the whole thing with Brock Lesnar and Obafemi. And it was good that they allowed Obafemi to win over, Brock Lesnar. Obafemi, I talked about before. He's kind of like T'Challa. He's kind of like the Black Panther of the WWE. And it was like good to see the torch kind of passed. They passed the torch, and it seems like Brock Lesnar was teasing that he was retiring. Kind of, it doesn't mean that he is, but it seemed like it. And I did a video for Obafemi winning, and I had another video about Obafemi and Brock Lesnar and how Brock Lesnar defeated a lot of the top black champions, all the WWE champions they've had, the headline champions. Brock Lesnar kind of ran through. So I had done a video about it, and I was kind of skeptical if they were going to let Oba win, and they did let Oba win, so that was cool. But I did a video about that, and I got other videos about wrestling up that y'all need to check out. But yeah, I knew this was going to suck. I mean, and the reason why, this is one of the reasons why I knew this was going to be bad, because when Cody and CM Punk were on SmackDown, remember he came out and interrupted CM Punk. He said, I hope y'all would tune in on Monday, because they both of those guys know what's going on, and I bet they both been vocal about it on some level behind the scenes. But they knew, because they know that a lot of people are not going to want to carry over. A lot of people, this is the last straw, and this week is going to be the last week for a lot of people, and this should lead to the mass exodus that I've been talking about. Like, we should all just stop watching and let their ratings plummet and go down. That's how we fix it. Because we got to do this, and I'm not yelling at you guys. I'm just passionate about it. I'm just upset, because I love you guys. It's not about y'all. I appreciate y'all, like I said, so much. It's just, I'm so upset, and WWE needs to be taught a lesson that they've gone too corporate. I did a video many years ago about them being too corporate, and now it's very true. It's like they're so corporate, they're not doing anything creative. It's just that I don't want to watch corporate wrestling. I like sports entertainment and professional wrestling from the technical side of things, the grappling and stuff. And I like to be entertained. And sometimes I go back, I like both. I like a balance. Sometimes I like the sports entertainment side more. Sometimes I like the grappling pro wrestling side of it more. And sometimes I like a balance between the two. I go back and forth. But what I don't like is corporate wrestling, when they're trying to sell you something, or it's more about stats and more about breaking records than it is about entertaining the crowd and giving us what we want. Huh? Sometimes you got to think about the people who support you, the people who've been loyal. And this is WrestleMania. This is supposed to be like the Super Bowl of professional wrestling. And this is what you gave us? Huh? Are y'all doing this because, do y'all want us to want Vince back? Because Vince was messing up. But Vince did at one point, did have a lot of ideas and was a genius at one time when it came to professional wrestling, sports entertainment. He had something, but it's like now, at Triple H, I gave you credit, man. I praised you and said that you were doing very well. I'm embarrassed to have said that at this point. That maybe prove me wrong. Come back and prove me wrong. It's just like, but I mean, it's like y'all just now just don't seem like y'all even care. Like y'all punishing us, for some reason. Like y'all mad that we didn't buy those tickets that y'all had, was basically high prices. Y'all had priced us out. It was too steep, the prices. And it's like nobody wanted the tickets. They were too expensive. So you didn't sell out the way you wanted to. And is this the punishment? Is this the payment for that? Is to give us crappy wrestling? Last night I said was average. A lot of people hated last night. I didn't. A lot of people hated it. It was some good points, but a lot of people hated it. And they leaned in on y'all. I gave y'all a break. Usually, like I said, I give credit where credit's due usually, but this time I'm leaning in because tonight sucked. So you had an average one. I say it was average, but it had some entertainment points. But at this point, you can't even afford average because you've been bad for so long that it should be good every week. But WrestleMania, you should be rolling out the red carpet for WrestleMania. It should be spectacle. It should be larger than life. Huh? And it makes no sense for it to be this bad. Y'all try to say this is the best era ever. A few years ago I said, no, it's not. And I said it then. I said it's not better than the golden era and it's not better than the attitude era. It's not. It had the potential to be. You could have made it that way, but y'all sold out again. Every time y'all get a chance to make wrestling, the big boom I always talk about in wrestling, and y'all always sell out. Whatever y'all go, or was an attempt to go mainstream, y'all sell out. You try to get a whole new audience and you abandon your core audience that's been loyal. I don't mind new fans coming along and joining us and becoming fans also and getting a new fan base and stuff like that. But you still have to be loyal to those who've been loyal to you. The ones who buy your products. The ones who support you, to give you the ticket sales and the ratings. You got to think about us from time to time. Some of us who've been, a lot of us have been watching wrestling since we were children. Lifelong fans. Think about us sometimes. Instead of abandoning us at the first chance you get. Remember when they went to Fox and they didn't think anything about the regular wrestling fan? They were thinking about getting MMA, which is, ultimate fighting fans, boxing fans, and football fans. They didn't think anything about the wrestling fan. We're always second. You know, and then even the fans who came along later on, I call them Johnny Come Lately fans, but I'm not dissing them. It's like, I love the fact that anybody would come along and love this thing that we all cherish and think is one of the greatest forms of entertainment. You know, when we think about professional wrestling, sports entertainment, we think it's one of the greatest forms of entertainment out here. We don't mind them coming along, but we should be the priority. They should be secondary, you know? And even they think it sucks. The people, the new fans that came along don't even like it. It'd be one thing if you were entertaining at least the new fans or the fans that you were trying to gain that you abandoned us for. You know, then it'd be one thing. But if now you're disappointing everybody across the board, this is bad. And this is like the last strike for a lot of people. You know, so y'all gonna have to hit it out of the park tomorrow for Mania. I mean, you know, the Monday, you know, Raw after Mania, that one. You know, you had all these people come across the world for different countries and all that stuff, and you gave them nothing. It's a nothing burger.
Launching probe.
You know, like, I mean, serve us something more on our plate, like a big juicy burger, not a nothing burger. Serve us more. We want more. You didn't quench our thirst. You know, we felt dry and empty and numb by this. You know, I say that a lot, but I mean, that's the case. It's true. You know, y'all phoned it in. Y'all didn't even really phone it in. You just did crappy wrestling. It was crap. And it's not the performers, so I'm not mad at the wrestlers, the performers, the superstars. It's not their fault. It's WWE, the creative team. And the creative team probably could have ideas, but they're so busy trying to kiss the behinds of the people at the top. You know? No, TKO, what's going on? Is it you guys that's the problem, Mario Man? You want TKO? Or is it WWE and their creative team? I don't know. Is Vince McMahon secretly still running this? You know? Is it like I said before, like Stephanie said, oh, my father's boy, and he's been doing it all his life now, so you kind of let him step in and start doing it again, and you kind of just hand the reins over to him. Because Triple H was doing well at one point, and now it's just like he's gotten bad with it. But I blame Triple H if that's what he's doing. It's still his fault. Because he's the one right now that's kind of, when it comes to the creative part of it, in charge. It's on his watch that they dropped the ball. When they went to Netflix, we thought that was going to be another restart. That failed. The one when they went to Fox, it failed. When they went to Disney, that failed. You know, they thought, oh, we got ESPN and Disney. This is WWE in its final form. We got nothing. Triple H always says, you haven't seen anything yet. You're right, I haven't seen anything yet. Y'all keep promising stuff, and y'all don't ever deliver. Nick Khan and all them talking like, oh, this you'll be, you know, and then where was the surprises? You know, we got some small surprises yesterday at WrestleMania Night 1. But in Night 2, where was the real surprises? There was none. This is a big disappointment. Oh, man. You know, when I think about it, you know, and one of the issues I had with this, like I said, I was not interested in Roman Reigns going against CM Punk because I knew nothing good was going to come out of it. Not because of the performers. CM Punk, Roman Reigns, loved them. They're legends. And I said they were going to take lemons and make lemonade. And they did their best. This is not their fault. But the execution of it, in the sense that I knew that WWE, it was no outcome that anybody's going to really want. Because if Roman gets it, it's like now part-time is the champion. That was the problem before a few years ago, even though it was at least enjoyable with the Bloodline storyline being one of the greatest storylines WWE ever had. Now, this means now that he'll have it again, you know, and it's like, how many times has Roman Reigns been in the main event? You know, this is CM Punk's second time in the main event. Kind of, it should have been his third main event because the one he had with Jericho should have been the main event that year. You know, or co-main event. I know they had a big match on the air, but it should have been the co-main event. And then last year, and I figured that Roman was probably win based on last year's Mania, you know, and with CM, all that stuff. So I figured that he came in as champion. But it's like now y'all put us in this odd position. If CM Punk would have won, it would have been a problem because people would have been like, well, you know, where do we go from here? CM Punk still has the championship. What's going on? What about the young guys? Because he's older now. And, you know, with Roman Reigns, he's older now too. But it's like he's a part-timer. And it's like, at least CM Punk was there from week to week. And it's nothing against Roman. He's earned his position to be a part-timer. He has. But I don't think they should be putting titles on part-timers. You know, he's had his championship run, one of the longest reigns in modern history. You know, so he doesn't need the title. Roman doesn't need the title. You know, give the rub to the young guys coming up that need the title, that still could use a championship win. You know, CM Punk doesn't need the title either. Their names are big enough now that they don't. They've had enough titles. You know, so for them to get it, it's like now, the only way this makes sense if they're going back to making Roman, you know, OTC, the original tribal chief. If he's going back to the bloodline type of storyline where he's the tribal chief again, and he's going to start that whole thing up again where it was like he was dominating. If they're going in that direction and they have something fresh in mind,
I'll let you work.
Maybe it could work. You know, some people don't want to see that because some people are sick of that and they feel like that storyline has lost its legs and it's walked as far as it should, and they should move beyond that. You know, but people feel like it hasn't been good since the bloodline storyline and the Cody Rhodes finishing his storyline, you know, with Cody. So now you got Cody as champion on one brand, and now you got Roman on the other brand. It's like, are we going in circles? I mean, are we going to now promote other? Can we promote other people, please? I mean, y'all got so many people up there you could be promoting. Like LA Knight is somebody who's, you know, at this point at his age is getting close to the end of his career. Can he at least get a run? You know, you got some of the young guys coming up now in the mid card that deserve to be able to be in the title picture or the main event picture at some point. So I mean, what are we doing? And y'all phoning it in too much. It's like, you know, it's like y'all not even thinking beyond, you know, that night. Back in the day, they had a blueprint and an outline for what they wanted to do. And they wanted to give you everything they could give, left everything on the page to give you everything. Now it's like they give you a little bit. It's like Triple H, like, we just gonna give them a little bit and we gonna keep holding back. It's like they keep promising you and stuff and they don't deliver. They never deliver. And it's like, you know, at this point, it's like almost like false advertising, because now they're saying they're gonna do something and you watch it and they do nothing. And like fans are getting sick of it. You can't jerk us but so many times before we finally have enough. And it's like they're trying to basically, like, they always give the ideas like, this the time we actually gonna deliver and give you what you want. And then it's like they're like, oh, psych, we're not gonna do it. Nope, not this time. Maybe next time. Then they'll tease you and act like they're gonna do something, and they'll pretend like they're getting ready to do something. They give you just a little bit just to make you think it's about to change and you're about to get the reset, or you're about to get some good entertaining wrestling. And then they go back to delivering nothing. Then they go back to business as usual, doing nothing, giving us a nothing burger, giving us lackluster wrestling, not wowing the crowd. Back in the day, they would try to give you everything, throw everything at the wall, and they would try to see what stick. And then they try to say, okay, well, you know, every week we're going to give you the best. Like Triple H's approach now is like, he said, well, we just can't, you know, give you everything, because then what do we have for next week? No, you'd be surprised if you give us everything, that another path and pathway and road will open up for you to be able to do something that next week. That's what you used to do when it was good. If you do it that way now, it would work now. Give us everything, and I bet you another pathway for the next week will open up, and you can give us something new every single week, something new, something compelling, something creative, something unique. That's what we need. They don't build the stars that we want. They pick the people they want. They have their golden boys and golden girls, and they don't do anything outside of that. You know? It's like all the rest of the wrestlers are there to just be supporting cast, just to prop up like maybe 10 or 12 wrestlers that they care about. And then like the other, you know, they have a large roster. They may have 70 wrestlers. The other people just got to just get in where they fit in. You know, like if you had 30 wrestlers and you only pick like 5 or 10 of them to do something with, and everybody else, the other 20 is just there to support them, you know, and it's even more than that. Wrestling, I'm just using it as an example. And it's like they don't care about anybody else there. And it's like, it's sad, because you could have a rotating, but you want to make sure when you're doing these things, you have a rotating main event scene and up and mid card scene. So that way, if somebody gets hurt or somebody, you know, just doesn't want to do it or want to take time off, then it's always another person that you could put in that main event scene and keep it rotating. It's just for their own company's purposes, because, you know, sometimes injuries can compile and people can all get injured at the same time, and then you have nobody. A lot of the top guys now are retiring because they only kept relying on the veterans. They never would build up the new guys. So now what you're stuck with is that all the guys that are at the top, the only ones you ever promoted or put any energy behind, are now leaving because they're retiring. Now what are you going to do? You can't build stars anymore. Y'all used to be able to make stars. Now it seems like y'all don't have the ability to do that. So what are you going to do? You know, y'all go back to business as usual. You'd rather go bring somebody back from the past than promote somebody new. That's not thinking about the future of the business. That's not doing what is best for business. They say, oh, we do what's best for business. I said, no, you don't. You know, and the thing is this, you know, what's best for business is pleasing us, the fans, the crowd, the people that give you the ratings, the people that buy your products and merchandise. That's what's best for business. But y'all always overlook us. And y'all brag about ticket sales and breaking records and all that type of stuff. Yeah, that's fine and good, but please make sure the product is good. Give us good storylines. Give us something to sink our teeth into. Everything's dry now. There's a drought in wrestling going on. And it does seem like pro wrestling is almost dead, because AEW is content just being number 2 to WWE. They don't have the eye of the tiger to try to dethrone or outdo WWE the way WCW did back in the past. TNA Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, is the only wrestling company that seems to be trying. Everybody else seems to be just falling under. You know, of course, you got the independent scene and smaller promotions. I'm talking about on the mainstream level. When you talk about the major leagues, when you talk about the top companies, it seems like TNA is the only one that's trying to give them competition. Like I said, we need a fourth big money company, a fourth one. You know, because we got basically it's AEW, TNA, and WWE. That's the top ones. We need somebody else to come along, a big money federation, to come along and give them competition and finally do what AEW and TNA failed at when it came to WWE. TNA is good, but when it was time when they had momentum, they failed. And it's like now they can't get their momentum back, even though they've grown and they've gotten a lot better. And now they are starting to gain a fan base again, you know, and they're getting more, you know, because aligning themselves with WWE and partnering, you know, they try to partner with WWE has helped them. but it's still not getting them to the level they need to be true competition for WWE. So I need somebody to do like how Ted Turner did when he started involving himself with WWE. Remember he told Vince, he called and said, I'm getting in the wrestling business. And Vince said, well, that's good. He said, because I'm in the sports entertainment business. Remember that whole thing? But I wish somebody would come along like that had the eye of the tiger that wants to come in there and outdo WWE. I thought when TKO took over WWE, it would be fresh and new and something different. But they're doing business as usual. They're even more corporate than Vince was. Who would have thought they could get more corporate? All these commercials doing WrestleMania and doing Raw. And, on Netflix, it's like all these commercials and ads and stuff. I thought we were going to not have to deal with that much of it once they got on Netflix or streaming. When they were on television, that made sense. But now it's like, now they just, they got more, seem like ads and commercial things than they do on SmackDown, which is still on, like it's on USA, on television. You could look at satellite TV or cable television, but, it's like network television. But it's like, why is it they have less on that show and on NXT, which is now on USA also? Well, it's not. It's on CW now. It was on USA, now it's on CW. Why is it there's less coming in? But when I'm watching Netflix, I got to sit there and they got I've seen brackets where they got like 8 ads in a row. I was like, man, this is too corporate. And they got all these logos on the mat and all these different things, these businesses, that stuff like that. I know you want to make money. I know these businesses are there and you want to have them and you want to promote those businesses that are supporting you, that you do that you're in partnership with. I get it. But it's like, it's too corporate now. And I don't like corporate wrestling. I can't watch corporate wrestling. I just can't do it. I said this years ago. And it's true to this day. I just can't do it. And if it's going to be this corporate, I got to go. And if it's going to be this corporate, at least let the creative side be doing something to justify it. And it's not. And that's my problem. But this is me, Damon Hancock. This is what I do. This is me ranting, But another issue I had, and it's like, I think like Triple S said, y'all trying to mess it up so bad that we demand Vince back. I don't know what they're doing. Like Triple H always, oh, you ready? Yeah, I'm ready for some good wrestling. He said, you haven't seen anything yet. And I said, you're right. I haven't seen anything. Nothing. I've done nothing. I haven't seen anything. I'm ready to see something. I haven't seen anything. All these promises that they failed to deliver on is getting sickening. Now, my other issue is that Rhea Ripley, and I like Rhea Ripley, like I said, nothing against her personally, and I think she's talented and, a legend in the making, but it's like they keep handing her everything. Why is it that Jade Cargill is the champion and she's coming out before Rhea Ripley? Explain that. That's when I knew she was going to win. I knew she was going to win anyway. I said, now, it would have been justified if she lost to have her come out, because they would say we just wanted to give her a spotlight like she was dominant and have her come in like she was the champion because we knew she was going to lose. But if you knew she was going to win all along, you could have let Jade come in like she was the champion at WrestleMania. Now, maybe it's some stuff going on behind the scenes or politics involved that, y'all may not be allowing her to do. Y'all say, well, she's still young in her career. Maybe, we'll do that later on down the road. But Rhea still kind of have it early in her career, but it's like y'all give her stuff all the time. Y'all got your favorites that y'all keep giving everything to. And this is not good for business. How many times are we going to watch Rhea Ripley get championships? And how many times is she going to be at Mania in a championship match when you got a whole roster full of women that could be up there doing stuff? Let somebody else get a turn. It's nothing against Rhea. Like I said, love you, Rhea Ripley, not against you. I'm just tired of her being the main event picture. She needs something else to do. Come up with something more creative for her to do. Think outside of the box, with all your programming and your product and your brands. Come up with something unique to do. I mean, wrestling was always good for being fresh and unique and original. Now it's just boring. Wrestling was always like this physical soap opera, like an athletic display. It was always good to watch. You didn't know what was going to happen from when like I said, the best form of entertainment, especially when it's firing all cylinders and good. But it's like now y'all just drained us and washed the trash. You're running us off. It was a time where some people left because it wasn't. Remember, wrestling was mainstream. It thing was trendy to do, and everybody jumped on it. And now it's like, and then they left. And now it's like, it's different. Some people left because it wasn't a trendy thing anymore. And they're Johnny come later. They'll jump on. They're fair weather fans. They'll jump on if it get good again. They go back and forth. You never can put your product around those type of fans. You should be thinking about the loyal fans. Or and I understand that you want to get new fans. I understand wanting to draw in new viewers and stuff like that. But you should think about the fan base that's been supporting you and been loyal first. It seems like, like they don't care about us. I remember when, Triple H remember he laughed when the fans were booing him after that whole thing when Cena retired and Gunther won, and people thought that Cena should have, we knew he was going to lose because you're supposed to pass it on the way out, you lose, but they felt like he shouldn't have tapped out. He should have just faded out because by tapping out, that went against everything he stood for, about never giving up, hustle, loyalty, and respect. It just went against what we knew John Cena to be. And, they were saying they did it, and maybe John wanted it done that way. I don't know. But a lot of people just weren't happy with that. And you know, and when the fans are booing him, he laughed about it. My point, I was upset about that. So when we don't like something you're doing, your response is to laugh, rather than say, you know, I'm sorry, you know, maybe we can do different some next time, and you know, that might not have pleased you, but you know, we'll strive to do better. That would have been an appropriate response. When you laughed, though, that was like you was just thumbing your nose in our face, like you don't care what we think. He laughed, and I said, so when we have a problem, rather than saying, you know, so trying to fix it and do better, you gonna laugh? So you don't care what we think, huh? It's okay to laugh when you see us upset and in pain about what's happening in the professional wrestling, sports entertainment. We're upset about it and we're passionate about it. We just wanted to do better. You thought it was funny, and you're in a position to do something about it. So you think it's funny, and you're not gonna do anything about it, and we're gonna just keep getting crappy wrestling. And that was my issue. That I was very upset by that, you know. But you know. Yeah, but you know, I know y'all know, like, oh, you say you know a lot. I'm saying, you know, but sometimes I'm just thinking about it. Just sometimes that I say, you know, just to stop so I can pause and calm down and regather my thoughts. Because I don't plan any of this out. I just come out here and I just start making this video. I just go off the top of my head and make the videos. You know, I don't have like an outline or anything. I just come on here and I talk from the heart. And it's just a lot of things that I'm just disappointed about. And they could be doing better. It's an easy fix, and they just won't do it. But they have like these people like with Rhea Ripley being champion. It's like, I mean, you got a large roster, you know. You could be promoting a lot of different women. And it's like he has his favorites, Triple H, and he just never deviates from that. And he keeps putting these people in these main event positions and not caring about anybody else. Look at that large roster and look how many people actually got to make Mania this year. A lot of people did not get on this Mania card that could have been on there. This is a lackluster WrestleMania, and y'all had a large roster. Y'all could have made this more creative and done a lot more. But you didn't. Y'all didn't care. And it's like, I know sometimes they may do it because it might strengthen the spirit of competition, because you may say, all right, I got to be more competitive and do better. So next year I can make WrestleMania. Next year on the next card, I can be there. So it drives them and it brings up that, you know, that competitive nature. You know, it fuels the people in the locker room to want to be on there because, like you said, it looks like, okay, I got to do better and I got to work harder and to be able to be at the, you know, the grand stage, you know, the grandest stage of them all, you know, in the wrestling business. You know, like I said, this is the Super Bowl of professional wrestling. So sometimes they may do this to kind of to nudge some of the wrestlers to work harder or to give them more ambition. You know, I understand that on some level, but from a political standpoint, you know, something, you know, I don't know, it could be some stuff going on behind the scenes, some inner workings and politics that going behind the scenes I don't know about. But I think they could have used other people on this card and made it more exciting.
I can't do that.
But it's like they keep picking the same people over and over. And like I said, it's nothing against Rhea Ripley. I'm just tired of seeing her be champion. You know, and she might have a long career. I mean, if I'm tired of seeing her be champion now, man, I can't imagine what's going to be like later on. So give her something so that you don't burn out, make it stale, and make it something that people don't want to see. You know, make it so it's something that's a big deal when she wins championships, that people want to see it. Now, you don't want people to see her and say, you know, I'm tired of her being champion.
Our facility is more.
So you got to pace yourself with that. You know, she seems like she's gonna have a long career. You don't have to pack all these championship reigns in the first few years of her career.
If you'll follow me to out processing for the pickup, Commander.
You know, so why is she, like I said, you know, when she came out after the champion, that kind of bothered me a little bit. You know, so they gotta think about the stuff they're doing and make the stuff you do make sense.
As you can see, we keep tight control.
I mean, when you think about storylines, do stuff that's gonna be, and give us a payoff sometimes. Stop doing storylines and then dropping the storyline or doesn't have a finish, or you know, or it doesn't make any sense. You know, come on, you know. And the thing is, like, y'all had the whole thing with Danhausen, and I love Danhausen and stuff like that. But was that really a Mania type of thing that we needed to do at Mania? I guess they want to have Miz come out and say something to John Cena. Okay, you have Kit, you know, Kit Wilson, who's doing very well.
We can put the whole place
I'm loving being entertained by him out there just as a spot. He should have been in a match. If you're gonna promote the youth and the new talent. You know, he comes out there and it's funny, and you know they have the you know, the little people out there with Danhausen. It's funny, I do, and I like Danhausen. I think it's entertaining. And it was good to have Cena out there in the ring and stuff like that. It was good to see Cena. But I didn't really need that for Mania. That's like, you do that on Raw and SmackDown.
Let's get on with this.
Have you had any escape attempts?
Or do that at the pre-show or something. You know, and it's nothing against, like I said, I like him. I do. I really do. And I think he's very entertaining and funny and all that.
We exercise extreme caution.
You know, very nice, very evil. That stuff he says. I think he's entertaining. But I think that I just would have rather seen somebody get a match, you know, in that spot, or get something else that would be more significant. You know, rather than comedy. And I need wrestling. I love when wrestling has some comedy here and there, but it doesn't need to be at the expense of somebody else's WrestleMania spot, when you could be using that to promote and make WrestleMania seem larger than life and make it more of a spectacle. We can save the comedy for little vignettes at the pre-show.
I'll catch up with
They don't
you
do
later.
pre-shows like they used to, but you
Check.
could do a pre-show again and have stuff like that going. You know, like my whole thing, like, you know, the comedy stuff, like R-Truth, it's like when I talk about not finishing the story, having R-Truth go out and talking about, you know, he's like, you know, I'm in the driver's seat now. He's going back to being Ron Killings, you know, Ron the Truth Killer. I like when he was Ron the Truth Killings, when he was in TNA, stuff he was doing there. You know, I'm a black man, so of course I would enjoy the stuff he was doing there because he had like a militant character. It's not against anybody of any other race, because I'm not going against anybody. You know, it's never race, but it was just different to see in wrestling. You know, wrestling used to be a Southern sport. You know, so it was good to see that because I wanted to see how it was interesting to see how the fans would respond to, like how they did with New Jack, how Southern white fans respond to characters like that. You know, it gets a extreme reaction. Some of them like the character, and some of them don't. But it seems like it gets a strong reaction. It's entertaining. You know, so it's always something different. So I thought he was doing something different and unique when he was in TNA wrestling.
Worst trouble you ever saw.
Not that you gotta do that all the time, like with the Nation of Domination. You know, we do those type of characters and have characters that are militant. It's always funny for me to watch how the crowd responds to that. You know, but he was firing all cylinders then. So I was like, oh, we might get some of that again, because I knew WWE when he would always come, they would never use a character like that, but he could do something akin to that, something similar to that, equivalent to it. And they just dropped the ball, and they had him go back to being a comedy character. And I think R-Truth is funny, and I love R-Truth, and I think he's very funny. I love his entertaining side, but it's like I thought y'all teased us and set us up to do nothing. Because I thought they were gonna bring back that character when he was more serious, and finally give him a serious run before he retires. And they just went back to making him a comedy character. And it's like, come on, can we do something different now? It's fun. You know, like what they're doing the New Day. They rather make people comedy acts, and not say a joke, because they're not. But it's like they'd rather do it that way than make serious, you know, characters, you know, for black characters. You know, it's like, and I talked about this in other videos. You know, and that's why it was good to see Obafemi win. And I like, you know, I want them to take some of the top black talent and be more serious about what they're doing with them. Stop making them into being comedy acts,
through the door
or you know, or just shortchanging them. You know, be serious and give them a true run. You know, it doesn't have to be us all the time. You know, I'm a black man. You know, of course, other races can shine too. I'm saying, but can we get a black champion that's serious that can get a good run? And I'm hoping they'll do that in the future with people like Obafemi and Trick Williams and stuff like that. But it's like,
drop your weapons and proceed into this open cell.
They just can't seem to get that part right. You know, and I don't ever expect to see a true black face of the company. I'd be surprised.
Maybe I can
because
change
if
your
they would
mind.
ever do it, The Rock would have been one to do that with. Even though I know people don't see him as a traditional black man, but he represents his black side in some way. Like I said, he was Muhammad Ali of professional wrestling. And I said, now we got like Trick Williams. He could be like the other, like Muhammad Ali of professional wrestling of this modern time. But I would love to see some of these guys get a serious run. You know, and not put racism to rear its ugly head. You know, most people think, oh, well, even if they're not racist, they may say that the fans are not racist. You know, they have a lot of black wrestlers now, and I'm kind of concerned about that, because I feel like they're going to start to think it's too many, and then they're going to start, it's going to take a toll on some of the storylines, and they're not going to promote these guys right. But prove me wrong. I might be wrong. You know, I want to be wrong. You know, I want them to do the right thing. But yeah, it's just that, to me, it's just that, you know, R-Truth, the comedy act is okay, but it's like now it's getting over the top. And he is funny, but it's getting over the top. I want to see him be serious again. And even if he's not serious, he doesn't need to be the comedy act that he's doing, that he's been now. Right now, what they're doing with him. They can kind of make him a little bit of a cross between both. You know, like he can be funny and serious at the same time. You know, stop making it like this R-Truth that don't know what's going on. Kind of, you know, like have some method to the madness, or he uses it to psych people out so he can use it for something. You know, like he's being that way just to psych out somebody so he can defeat the opponent or something like that. You know? And much love to R-Truth. Ron the Truth Killings, love that guy. First NWA champion, first black NWA champion. The first black NWA champion. Like how The Rock was the first WWE black headline champion. And Ron Simmons was the first WCW black champion. I always bring up Booker T. He was the second WCW champion. And maybe, was he the last WCW champion? I can't remember. But he was the 5-time WCW champion. And he won the world championship in WWE, but never the headline WWE championship. You know, so I send a shout out to those guys. You know, always, you know, talk about like what Kofi Kingston winning was good because, you know, he was African. He wasn't a black man of slave descent like me, but it's still good to see. Big E was and Bobby Lashley were black champions of slave descent. You know, it was good to see. Even The Rock was, but most people don't see him, identify him as black. You know, his father was black, you know. And it was good to see them as champion, you know, and maybe one day they'll have another black champion. It was good to see that Swerve Strickland, I think he was the first AEW black
it's the only way
world
to get
champion,
Jack
so
out
that
of
was
there.
good to see.
I'm doing it. Be ready.
So I'm just saying that to congratulate those guys. You know, and I know some of y'all, oh, you making about, it's not about race. I'm just putting it on here just to congratulate those guys. You know, and you know, salute to all the non-black wrestlers also. It's good to see them come up. You know, like you said, I love professional wrestling, and I thank and appreciate everybody who's ever gotten to the ring, laced up a pair of boots, or gotten to the ring and gotten there to entertain us. You know, because they put their life on the line, their bodies on the line, their health, their, on the line. You know, their sanity, they put that on the line, their well-being and all that. And I appreciate and salute everybody that's done that before got in the ring and wrestled a match. Whether it be in a gym, a small auditorium, a stadium, or an arena, wherever it is, a backyard, wherever. It could be just in your own house. People, when they do that, it's a dangerous thing. It's, like I said, when done right, the best television, the most entertaining thing on the screen, professional wrestling, because you get a little bit of everything.
Sounds like
you get drama, suspense, you can get comedy. Sometimes you get thrills, you get like horror. You can get horror, like a horror movie in it. You get, like I said, it could be like comedy. Sometimes they even have romantic storylines, but a lot of the drama and the passion and action and adventure. And that's what I enjoy about it, and that's why I'm so passionate. It's like I've been a fan for so long. It's like, and what I was saying before, it's like they're going to run me off. I didn't want to leave. Like, so a lot of those fans who came in that left wrestling, when wrestling, when the heyday and the trend was over with, when it wasn't the cool thing anymore, they left. I stayed, I did the opposite of what some people do. Some people saying, I knew this one guy, he watched wrestling and football, and I was watching wrestling and football. He kept watching football and stopped watching wrestling. I stopped watching football, American football, not soccer, American football. I stopped watching football and kept watching wrestling. So I did it the other way around. So we kind of laughed, and I saw that person, and that person, was with me. I had something on screen that had The Rock. He wanted to watch it. He said, oh, it reminded me of the good days and stuff. And he almost came back. He was watching. He was getting tired of football. Now he doesn't watch football or wrestling. And I said, I'm getting ready to get to that point where I don't watch either now. I'm not going to watch football or wrestling myself because they get ready to run me off. A fan like me who's been loyal for decades, lifelong wrestling fan since I was a kid, single digits. I was watching wrestling. Some people get to double digits for their parents will allow them to watch wrestling. Single digits, I was watching wrestling. And as far as your age go, And I've been watching for all this time, I just want them to think about us from time to time. The people who've been watching and defending wrestling, the people who would say wrestling is fake, and we defend it and we get upset. And I would say stuff like, well, you watch movies are fake. I would say that reality TV is fake. Some of y'all don't believe that reality TV is scripted. I said some of these sports y'all watching, the games are rigged. It could be fake to a certain degree. I said, so don't give me that. The news can be fake sometimes. I said, so don't give me that. And I said, the athletic display, just watch it like it's a TV show. So if you watch it for 3 weeks and give it a fair chance and really watch it like it's a TV show, watch it like it's a TV show rather than trying to watch to see what move is fake. Oh, that was fake right there. I said, no, watch it as a TV show. And give it 3 weeks. And I said, I bet you enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, you at least respect it. I said, these people put their body on the line all the time. I said, and it's choreographed and, it's predetermined, but it's still people get, people destroy their bodies doing this stuff. They get hurt and injured. I said, I don't care how you choreograph this thing. When a 300-pound man jump on you, you're going to feel it. And it takes a toll on their body. They died at young ages. A lot of these people are crippled at the end. They have a lot of stuff going on, a lot of ailments and all that. The quality of life of them goes down after doing professional wrestling for so many years. And they put up with a whole lot. It's like being on the road. It's like basically like how like a rock star or a musician, like a singer or a rapper would be when they go on the road. They do that because they're on the road all the time. They're on the road all year. They don't have an off season. Of course they could take breaks, but for the most part, it's year round. So this could drive people crazy. This is stuff that you're away from home so much. So you got to at least be able to look at it from that standpoint, at least respect it from that end. And the athleticism, it's like a physical soap opera. They got to remember lines. They supposed to have charisma. They got to go out there and perform. In front of sometimes a live crowd, you don't have too much room for mistake, so we can at least respect it. I say, of course, and we on today, we don't know. We know wrestling is choreographed. We know y'all call it fake. It's not fake, but we know what's going on. We know it's predetermined. I said, and we sit there and we watch it because we enjoy it like it's a TV show. That's how you got to watch it. And I said, a lot of times, I said, how many people sit there and watch somebody be hit with a chair and do nothing and smile about it? We're smiling, we enjoying the show because we know it's a show. And we look at it that way. It's like a traveling circus. It's a show. And we get it. And we're watching it for the drama and the entertainment and the adventure. The spectacle, the wonderment, when it's good and when it's at its best, it's the best thing on television. It's nothing like it, and that's what we want. We want the larger than life stuff going on, the adventure that it used to have back in the day. When you look at the golden era, back in, when Hulkamania was running wild. We looked at the Attitude Era, You know, when Stone Cold was doing this thing and all these different, you know, it's like we just basically that's what we want. We want the spectacle. We want the larger than life adventure. Now it feels plastic and empty. No. It's a drought. They're not quenching our thirst. Like I said, you know, I don't feel well nourished by it. You know, I don't feel that passion anymore. You know, now I can't sit through a whole Raw. I used to, you know, get excited about wrestling. Now I'm falling asleep halfway in, or I can't finish it, and I got to finish it the next day. I used to watch it from start to finish. And you know, and I used to get excited about it. Now I'm kind of, and maybe I've been watching too long. Like I said, maybe it's because I've been watching so long. Maybe I'm desensitized by it. Maybe that doesn't do. It's not getting me. You know, it's not getting me. Maybe it's not doing anything to me. And then I thought about this. Some of the new fans, and the younger fans are saying they're not liking it either. I said, so maybe it's not just me. You know, because I started thinking, well, maybe it's just somebody who's been watching for so long. Now I can, you know, like, you know, I don't want to compare anything to drugs. I said, but like, you know, that drug addict that can't get high anymore because he done had so much, he done done so much, they don't get high off the regular stuff. He got to have more to get high. You know, it's like an addiction, and wrestling was like an addiction to a lot of people. We loved it, we watched it, and don't do drugs. I'm not promoting them at all. You guys have to put that out there. I'm just using that as an example in a comparison. You know, you're not promoting that stuff. But I'm saying when I say addiction, I'm talking like similar because we always wanted to get more and more. I go and I, you know, like you know, in more modern times, I get on internet watch. I watch internet wrestling. I watch, you know, people when they were wrestling in gyms. I watch different small federations. I watch the big federations. I go watch old school wrestling. That's what I'm doing now. If I stop watching it, I'm gonna keep probably watching the old school wrestling from back when wrestling was good. You know, the Attitude Era, the Golden Era. You know, some people like the Ruthless Aggression Era. You know, I'm not as big of a fan as some people are, but it's better than this stuff. You know, but you know, I watch foreign wrestling from other countries and stuff like that. I just all that stuff. You know, it's just I was just so into it. You know, and that's the thing about it. It was cool. You know, back in the day, I would watch the tapes. I watched the tapes. You know, like we get the stuff we would rent it. You know, we rent the tapes from, you know, places like Blockbuster or your video store and stuff like that. And, you know, some people get the DVDs and stuff. I would play the video games at one point. I get the action figures and stuff. I go to some of the events, you know, stuff like that, you know, and some people would buy the merchandise and stuff. I haven't brought too much merchandise, but some people have brought a lot of the merchandise, you know, stuff like that, you know. I was back in the day. We would be doing backyard wrestling back when it was cool to do when nobody told you not to do backyard wrestling. You know, that's how far back I go. Back before they told you not to do it. Too many people got hurt. Then they started telling people not to do it. You know, and I go back to the point when you would have they would get the cardboard box and put aluminum foil on there. And I remember the first time I got a belt that looked like one, it was like one of them, you know, and everybody wanted to get that one because we were wrestling. If you lost the match, you had to give up your title. Even if you paid for it, you had to give it up. You know, so it's like you were wrestling. So we would do that type of stuff. I've loved it that long. You know, it's just me. It's them. You see, I talk about, I ramble about wrestling, you know, but I love it that much. And it's like, I never wanted to leave wrestling. I would never leave it on my own unless you run me off. And they've run me off now. I may leave because they're going to run me off. Different from the fans before who left because it wasn't trending anymore. I'm leaving because it's not good anymore. It's too corporate. It's bad. I want to stay. I just can't. I can't do it. Somebody taught me to stay. I almost didn't even stay this long. I almost was out. You know, and maybe, and you know, if it gets bad and I stop, I'll come back in if it gets good again. You know, I have people that's going to be watching and will tell me if it gets good again. I don't want to go, but you're going to make me leave. Oh, man. To lose a fan like me, you got to work hard to do that. You got to be working hard to make fans like me. And I'm not the only one that's fans just like me saying the same thing. To make us leave, the loyal ones that have been loyal to y'all, been watching since they were children, to get us to run off when we adults now, after all these decades of us watching, you have to be doing bad. You know? But that's me on my rant. You know, I didn't want to keep y'all this long. You know, here I am, you know, just wanted this to be a few minutes, you know. And now it's like, you know what, you know, I done gone this for over half an hour, you know. But I want to thank y'all for your time. I appreciate y'all so much. You know, Benny Hancock for the Pro Wrestling Movement series. Like I said, I thank y'all for like a wonderful, good evening. And I always say, you know, I was saying in another video, Happy Wrestling, you know, I remember when wrestling was good and I just was so excited about it and I couldn't wait to see it. I just hope it gets back to that, back to the prestige and the wonderment and the, you know, and just the larger than life aspect of it, of professional wrestling. Wait till it gets back or hope that it does. It'd be a shame that, you know, I always was waiting for that big game. And they kept filming it. I thought when AEW came along, that was going to be it. And then they went to Fox. I thought that was going to be it. I thought when they went to Netflix, that was going to be it. When they went to Disney and ESPN, I thought that was going to finally be it. And they keep failing. Every time they sell out and go corporate, it gets worse. And I just can't keep going through the motions. I can't keep doing this. It's almost like a ritual. We just watch that just to watch, but we're so used to doing it after all these years. But we have to break the cycle and stop. And if we all stop watching at the same time, if their ratings go down, maybe they'll do something to change. At this point, it doesn't even matter that much. You know, in the sense that it matters some of us may be wrong because even if they do change, they won't be consistent. They might be good for a week or two. I'm saying make it consistent, make it good. You know, you don't have the luxury of being bad. You've been bad so long, you can't even have one bad week. Every week needs to be good to keep us. And I don't know if you can do it because I don't know if y'all have the fortitude, you know, to do so. You know, like y'all don't even have the motivation. Y'all not even driven to do that. You know, get the eye of the tiger again. One day, you know, maybe because they didn't have competition, true competition for so many years, they done got comfortable. They had a monopoly going, they done got comfortable and set in their ways. That's not going to continue to work. You got to give us what we want. Think about us, but we're going to walk away now. It's going to be a mass exodus and it needs to happen. You know, because y'all just refuse to do the right thing. It's easy. It's not even hard to do. Even if you don't have ideas, you can listen to the fans. We can give you ideas. Fans like, we don't mind y'all taking some of our ideas, you know, if you're just going to make a product, brother. If y'all just got writer's block and y'all tapped out, just say it. If you have nothing, just say we don't have anything. We can't think of nothing, and we have writer's block, and we have no idea. Just to understand that, you know, and we can help you along. You know, or hire people you can. Y'all got how many writing teams? You got one for SmackDown, Raw, and NXT. And y'all mean to tell me 3 writing teams, y'all can't come up with anything. You paying these people, and they can't come up with ideas. Or maybe they do have ideas, but they're scared to give y'all the ideas because they're scared, or they're not listening, or one down, somebody can steal the ideas. Or either they're writing to please you guys, and saying that, okay, you know, because it could be a situation where it's like, they may have ideas, but they say, I'm going to get Triple H, get all your name, what they want. Or like when Vince said, we can write according to what their case, what they want, rather than give us what we want. You know? And it's like, if you got yes men there who just don't want to do it, they just want to do what you want, and they just can be, you know, get rid of them and get writers in there that's going to write. And it's going to have the courage to come in here and they have to disagree with you guys. That they're gonna be fighting for the fans and what we want.
It's gonna blow!
We're fighting for good television. We don't want lackluster television. We want to have writers that will be writing every week to give us blockbuster television. Every week. And they're gonna leave everything on the page. I remember when wrestling used to be dangerous. You know, when you felt like it was edgy and larger than life. It's like now they don't feel dangerous and edgy anymore. It's like when you did it before, it felt like it was like it was like rebel television. You were watching something you weren't supposed to be watching. Look, remember when ECW was out? Anyway, it's like it felt like, okay, I'm doing something. It felt rock and roll, didn't it?
Find Jack.
It felt like it was rock. It felt like, okay, this is extreme, you know. And it's like you didn't know what was gonna happen. It was some surprises all the time, and that's what made it cool. You know, you feel like you were going against the grain. It felt edgy. It doesn't feel that way. That feels plastic. Like I said, empty and numb, dry, like some drought. Y'all not quenching our thirst.
You're valuable, Shepherd. I could have sold you
You're giving
and
us a
lived like
nothing
king.
burger. Serve us a good burger and quench our thirst.
But you're too much trouble. At least I can
I just hope
recapture
wrestling can get back
Jack.
to that again.
Not
I
happening.
love wrestling.
You're a 2-bit
and I
slave
hate that I
trader,
might
and I
have
don't
to
have
be.
time for it.
And I want to
I
thank
do the hard
all
things
the
civil governments are
performers in
unwilling
wrestling, and I
to.
want to thank
This
wrestling
is for
all
the good of the
times it did
galaxy.
get. And this may be goodbye. And if it is, that's a sad thing because to run off a fan like me and there's other fans like me, that's a sad thing to do. You know, we almost withstand. You know, we've been through so many eras that might have been bad, and we stayed through thick and thin. In the bad times, we're here. But enough is enough. We like that abused person that just can't keep getting abused. It's like after a while, it's like no, you know, after a while, you know, now you know, it's like you said I got to go. I can't keep doing this. You know, it's for like you know, at some point the abused person has to realize the abuser is never going to stop abusing them. And you have to leave for your own sake. This is not one of those situations where the abuser is going to stop. We're going to keep being abused here, it seems. Now, prove me wrong if you can stop. And, you know, you can give us good TV, and I would love for you to do it. But if not, at some point, we have to break the cycle and stop and say enough is enough. And, you know, and I can't sit through corporate wrestling that's about money and about greed. And they only care about ticket sales and breaking records. They're not concerned how many people in the arena, how much merchandise did we move? How many things did we sell? How many t-shirts did we sell? You know, I can't do that. How many little, you know, them basically they got the little title belts. How many of those did we sell? You know, those replica belts, replicas of the true titles. How many of those did we sell? You know, they also have a feel-good problem. You know, and I'm all about the feel-good moments and stuff, but now it's like they chase moments more than they do actual intent. You know, and you got to honor the rest of it, and you want to give people their moments, and it's about, you know, giving them payoffs and stuff like that. The people who work hard, I agree. But it's like now they more concerned with self-congratulating each other. You know, patting each other on the back, talking about what a great job we're doing. That's okay if you're doing something you have a good product, but if it's a bad product, you need to stop and get back to doing what, you know, put you where you were in the first place, delivering. And they're content just doing things as business as usual. They feel like they're not. It's almost like they're punishing us. It's almost like when they're doing stuff like, oh, is that what y'all want? Okay, we won't do that. You want this person to be champion? Okay, we'll put them on the back burner. We won't do anything with them. And we'll put the person you don't want there in the championship position. And we got golden boys and golden girls that will keep using over and over. And the other people won't be able to break through the glass ring. They're always talking about, you know, you got to want the brass ring. But a lot of people want that brass ring, you just won't give it to them. It's out of their reach. A lot of people doing everything they can that you're telling them to be able to be one of those top guys, top girls, and y'all not doing it. There's a lot of politics going on. You know, like I said, I don't know all the behind the scenes stuff. There may be things that we don't know about for the reasons why some people are not getting that push, you know, not being basically elevated. It may be things like that going on. But everybody couldn't be messing up. I know some people are doing the right thing. We can just tell by the passion they have and what they're doing on screen. And you know that there's people there who could be doing these things, stuff, be put in those positions, and you just won't do it. And I wonder if it's a punishment to us. It's like, you know, we're going to tell you what you want. You know, you're not going to tell us what you want. We're going to give you what we want to give you rather than what you want. It's like that they're taking that approach. Like, we tell you what you want, and that's not going to work. That's not going to get you anywhere. You know, and I know I'm just passionate about it. It's like basically like you should be trying to please the people who buy the merchandise, like I said before, the people who, you know, who put our butts in the seats for y'all to get these, you know, break these records and give you the ratings that we watch every week. They're always talking about putting butts in seats and stuff like that. I said, we're the ones that you're trying to get to come to these shows.
Get ready.
So think about us from time to time and show some loyalty back. We've been loyal now, show some back. You know, at least give us enough respect to at least make an attempt. But I want to thank you guys for your time. This is longer than I intended for it to be, you know, and this kind of a rant, it's kind of just me, it's a critique. And me talking about the things that bother me, you know. Like some of the things I've been seeing for like, all the time we watching wrestling, always these breakups when it's like one wrestler can beat up like 20 security guards. That needs to stop. I want to see them stop putting everybody through tables and stuff like that. I mean, come on now. Some of the things are tropes that I'm tired and carried out. You know, I saw Rhea Ripley beat up like 10 men. You know, they won't let out. I mean, I know she's strong, but a female is not going to beat 10 grown men. That's just not believable. Especially these dudes, like some of them are fit. Some of them are wrestlers who are development or they're using their security guard. It's like, you know, come on now. You know, like you gotta have 20 people try to break up the fight, but they can't even break it up, and the people still coming through there and break. When we gonna stop that stuff? You know, we suspend disbelief. You know, like we suspend these things. You know, sometimes when we're watching stuff like that. But I mean, but not we can't that much. Let's make it just real realistic. The suspension of disbelief and belief is basically, you know, is now y'all pushing. You know, y'all doing the same things over and over. Why everybody got a mic? Back in the day, it was one mic. The host or the commentator or whoever would be, or the backstage commentator, whatever, you know, the backstage personalities or the authority figure would be the ones with the microphone. One mic or a few mics. You know, everybody had to come to the mic. It wasn't everybody coming out. Why does everybody have a microphone? Is this something? See, these are some things that bother me. It's like, you know, a microphone should be a sacred thing that you got to go to a microphone. What happened to having podiums and sets? You know, remember they used to have Piper's Pit, the Snake Pit, the funeral parlor, the barbershop. They need to do stuff like that. Remember that podium Tony Schiavone would have back when Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair would be going at each other? That's what made me love wrestling, was Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair.
My name is
and
Shepard,
Hogan,
and I'm here to get you off
so like the
this
Von
ship.
Erichs, you know, they made me love wrestling. You know, they had a little podium there and people talking, you know, when it was like studio wrestling. What happened to studio wrestling? What happened to have nice sets?
I'm here to ask for your help.
You know, like I said, I have a problem with some of the lighting they have now. I like house lights. They used to use the house light when it looked brighter. Everything looks dark and dreary now.
This
You know,
ship is
if you look at
going down
Attitude
in
and Old
flames.
Golden Era, they
We
had
can
more
get you to
lighting.
safety, and
You know,
we're
it was lighting.
asking
It
for
wasn't
your
dark
help.
and dreary.
They could
You know, I
just
know
walk
sometimes they
around
want to
and
try to
take
cover
it.
up the amount
I'd
of
like
people
to
in the
see you
crowd or
try.
certain sections of it. Sometimes you can do that, but make it brighter. You know,
We're not
that's the
gonna
one thing in
attack.
adventure was when it's colorful.
Good move.
Like I said, you know,
Look, you want
everybody
me to come
wearing
with you?
T-shirts and black
Make it
boots.
worth my
You know, stuff like that. I
while.
said, you know, and there was a time where I liked black boots more. They were wearing too many colors, but I wanted
me
some
what you
colorful
think.
boots. Back when people wearing
bet your
white boots
ship's
and
got
colorful
lots
boots.
of Cerberus
You know, at one point
databases.
I wanted to
I wanna
see some
look at
black
those
boots. It was
files,
different.
see
But
what
then everybody
Cerberus got
started
on
doing it.
me.
It was cool when Stone Cold
Want me
first
on
did
your
it, but
team?
everybody
Let
started
me go
doing
through
it.
those
Everybody got on
databases.
these graphic T-shirts and
I'll
black
give you full
boots and stuff.
access.
I remember back
Shepard,
then.
you're
I've
not
said this stuff
authorized to
before.
do that.
You know, I remember back when
it
people had
upsets the
robes, majestic
cheerleader
robes and
even
jackets and
better.
stuff. You know, they wore colorful
better be
stuff.
straight up
You
with
know, they
me.
had vests and stuff like that. They would come out with hats on. They just looked larger
why the
than
hell we're
life. They looked
standing
majestic. They
here?
looked like real stars.
Move up.
All the glamour and glitz. People looked like wrestlers back then. You had monsters who were big. You know, everybody now just like a regular person. And that's okay too. But let's have some people who like these monsters and these people who are so big and stuff. Give the hero something to defeat and overcome. You know, where it's like they're fighting against the odds. This person is so big or so strong
Welcome to
or
the
a
Normandy,
giant or
Jack.
something like that.
I'm Miranda,
You know, or just
Shepard's
very big
second
and
in
large.
command.
You know, and
On
it's
this
like,
ship,
you know, for
we follow
the
orders.
hero to overcome that.
Tell
it's
the
just-
Cerberus
that-
cheerleader to
you know, that
back
was
off,
a
Shepard.
part of the
I'm
spectacle,
here because
part
of
of the
our
attraction
deal.
and draw. You know, like I said, but people had robes, they had a lot of
Miranda
sparkle,
will let you
bling,
into the
bling type
system.
things. People,
Let me know
when
what
they
you
would wear the
find.
suits, they would wear the jewelry with them and
Hear
stuff.
that, Precious?
Everybody didn't wear
We're
clothes
going to be
inside the
friends.
ring. They wore
You,
wrestling
me,
gear.
and
You know,
every
some
embarrassing
characters can do
little
that.
secret.
But it's like
I'll be
basically, you know,
reading
not
down
everybody
the
do it. It's
hold,
weird.
or
Everybody coming
somewhere
out with
near
these
the bottom.
t-shirts on, like I said, graphic.
I don't like a
If
lot
you
of
want to sell your
neutral.
t-shirt, because sometimes they're doing it so people
Keep
can
your
see
people
it.
off
They can
me.
put the graphic up
Better
on the
that way.
screen so people can see it. You know. And then they can say, okay, I'll go buy that. But I mean, you can or come out with a t-shirt holding it, but you can wear something that looks larger than life. You know, like I said, some type of costume or uniform or something that looks good to the ring. You know, another, I don't like the knee pads they got today. Everybody went kick pads. It's not like the knee pads and the elbow pads from back in the day. You know, when people wore white tape, everybody wearing the black tape around their wrists and stuff. And, you know, there was a time, like I said, you know, if they do that too much of the colorful stuff, then I want to go, you know, then it was like a time where I wanted to go wear black boots and stuff. But now they've done the black boot stuff too long. Now I want to see them be colorful again. Make wrestling more colorful. That's what I'm saying. Bring the lights back up. Make it look bright. You know, make it feel like we're at an event. You know, we had the Wonderment when it was majestic, and people had the majestic voices. The commentators and the announcers, they had majestic voices. When can we do that again? You know, everybody sounds normal now. That's okay. I'm not saying these people can't have their jobs, but you know, we want to make this larger than life. Give people spectacle. Give people something different to look at. Make people feel like they're watching an event. You know, that we don't see people. You know, make stars again. You know, when we see people on there that they don't seem like the average, everyday, ordinary person, but they feel larger than life.
Hey.
They feel like real superstars.
Tell me about
They feel
you,
like
Jack.
somebody you would
I'm still
just
finding out
rarely
about me.
ever see. You know,
Thanks
people that
for
you
letting me
know,
look
like
at
so.
these
It like I said,
What's
when
in
it comes to the invention and
Your
wonderment and
friends
stuff like that, you
Cerberus
know,
are into
and
some
just
nasty
the unique,
things.
you know, like
I'm
we
gonna
like
find something I
we
can
like
use.
seeing things
I
that you
just
need.
know
Once we
it.
understand things or we see it too much, then we get
What's your
boring
history
and we're
with
no longer
Cerberus?
interested. We love
They
stuff
raised
that's
me in a
different, stuff
research
that's gonna show us
facility.
something that we've
I
never
escaped
seen
when I was a
before, getting a
kid.
unique
Been on the run
experience.
ever since, and they've been
Something that's
chasing
gonna
me
create
ever
memories.
since.
You know, something's gonna give
But
us, you know,
soon,
and that's the reason why
I'm gonna
right now
chase
everybody's
them.
craving and going back and watching old stuff, nostalgia. Even when it comes to music, music
think
used to be
about
good.
this a
Music
lot,
is bad
don't you?
now.
I go to
You know,
sleep
and
with
now
this.
people going back
I
listening to
wake
old
up
music
with
when
it.
music was good. That's another thing. WWE
Everyone
music
I
is bad.
kill,
The music
I
used to be
pretend
good in
it's the ones
WWE.
that did this to me.
You know, and now y'all
You don't
using
have to
all
live
this
in this
rap
pit, you know.
music and stuff. When
It's
rap was
dark,
actually doing
quiet,
something
and
actually
hard to
good, y'all never
find.
used it. Now
That's why
rap is
safety
whack
to me.
and bad. Now you want to use rap all the time. You know, I remember when
You know,
wrestling would use
this
rock and roll that
ship
was
is a
edgy and good.
powerhouse.
You know, they would
You
use
could get a
new
pirate.
wave music and stuff like
Live
that.
like
You
a
know,
king.
use music that sounds
could
good,
help.
something that's gonna make us feel, you know, and get us in the
We
mood.
have to stop
You know,
the
kind of
collectors.
turn us on
I
a
don't
little bit.
have
When I say
time
turn
for
us on to wanting to
When
see the
this is
spectacle.
done, we'll either be dead
You know?
or out here in
When the
space.
music got you ready, you know, when
With
somebody would
this
come down, the
ship.
music would hit, and you was already into it. You know, you was already ready for them just through the music. It
about
wasn't
it.
even, they didn't even
Lots
do
of
nothing yet.
creds.
And you already was into
Freedom
it.
to go
You know,
wherever
that's what you can
want.
see with the stars of the past. And
And
that music
I'll
hit
Friday
everybody. When
night.
you Stone Cold would come out, as soon as that glass like shattering
What
sound,
is it about killing
people
that
would
fascinates
snap. Look
you
at the
so
crowds
much?
back then.
I
Look
figure
how the
every
crowds
time
into. Look at
someone
the crowds
dies
now.
and
The
it's
crowds
not
now
me,
are just
my
kind of
chances
dead,
of survival
empty,
go
nothing.
up. Simple.
And that's your fault because you're not entertaining them. Because you could do that again. It
What is
happened
it
before.
about
It can
killing
happen
that
again.
fascinates you so much?
You
I
know, so
figure
you know,
every-
bring back
simple.
good music.
I
You know,
should
bring
go.
back good feuds and storylines. You know, stop making everything so
Yep.
plastic and numb and mainstream and so corporate and pop like. You know, like pop. This pop. You know, it's like when I say pop, like pop music was when it was bubble gum. Everything's still bubble gum. There's no emotion to anything we watching. There's no feeling in it. You know. When Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair would go out there, they would talk. All they do, they sold the match just based on their energy and the way they would talk to each other. You know, and their presentation. You know, stop scripting everything so much where you take away the life. You know, I don't mind things being giving people bullet points to talk about, but don't script their promos so much that they get the life is drained from it. Let them have some emotion. Let them add something to it. You know, stop handcuffing the talent. You know, let them run loose. You know, let them be free. You know, let them be themselves. But, you know, I ain't mean to go off on this tangent, but this is me giving, you know, it's like basically, it's my rant, but it's kind of like one of maybe, you know, and you know, and I may continue on, but this could be one of my last rants about wrestling because I may stop watching for a while. So, you know, I just kind of just want to talk about some of the things that bother me. You know, I want to talk about the things I enjoyed about wrestling too. Like I said, we get credit what credit is due. When you do it right, I give you your flowers. And when you do bad, I have to critique it and I have to tell the truth. Constructive criticism, I have to tell you the truth. Because I want to see you do better because I know you can. I know you can do it. It's not impossible. Triple H, you were doing well. I know you can do it again.
Commander.
You know, and if y'all can't,
What can
then
I do
step
for you?
aside and let other people who can do it. You know, but I want to thank y'all. I appreciate y'all. You know, it's almost an hour in now. I'm almost like 55 minutes in. Thank y'all for listening. Some of y'all, you know, they're probably done tuned out already. Thank you to all you guys who stayed and stuck with me. I appreciate it. Thank you for listening this long.
You have a minute, Miranda?
I
There's
didn't
a
plan
lot
for it
to
to be
do,
this long. I
Shepard.
say it all the time. I
Maybe
come on here
another
think I'm gonna do
time.
about 2 or 3
I'll let
minutes
you
and
work.
end up being
Of course,
sometimes like an
Commander.
hour. You know, and I thank y'all for sticking with me and staying with me and continuing on. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I thank you so much. You'll never know how much I appreciate it. And I did love wrestling, and I still do love it. But it's like I may have to go. They may have. This may be the last straw. They may have run me off. You know, but I hope that they surprise me and they'll pull something new out of the bag or give me something intriguing, something to give. You know, always even when it was bad times, always something that would keep me sticking around. But now it's nothing. You know, it's like nothing just keeping me there. And I'm hoping they're gonna give me something before I go, so I can stay. I want to stay, and hopefully I will. Maybe I'll stay. You know, if it's something. But I just can't keep doing it if it's gonna be done this way. If it's gonna be corporate, it's gonna be bad. I just can't stay. And then I'm not opposed to coming back if it gets good, you know. But I just hope that, and then I may still continue watching internet wrestling, old school wrestling. I may watch Impact Wrestling, which is TNA, because they do well, still, small for promotions and stuff. I may come back to. I stopped watching AEW because they just didn't have the eye to tiger. Maybe I can go back to watching them if they get good again. But I'm hoping that everybody can be good and I can enjoy wrestling across the board. Or that somebody new may come along, a new promotion or federation to come along and wow the crowd and give us what we want and actually think about the fans. But I want to thank you guys for listening. This is Damon Hancock from the Pro Wrestling Movement series. I may put more in the description in case there was something I didn't cover or I forgot. Like I said, thank you. I appreciate you. And I will see you down the road. Goodbye for now. Like I said, I want happy wrestling and happy wrestling to y'all that continue to watch wrestling, and hopefully I can continue watching it and it can be good again, and we can come on here, and if it's good, I'll come on here and praise it, but it's unfortunate that I might have to go. I will always be thankful and grateful to the times that were good in professional wrestling that got me through hard times, that, when wrestling would entertain me when nothing else would. When I knew I could count on wrestling, if nothing else was on television that I wanted to see, when everything else was bad, that was the one good thing. I miss those days. And, I just want to see it come back to its former glory, and I want to see it, shine again. I don't want it to lose its luster, be lackluster, be bad and boring. I want to see the wonderment again. I want to see the adventure, the spectacle. I smile when I think about what wrestling used to be, and I love it. I will always cherish the times that I did love wrestling, and I will always defend wrestling. I never turned into one of those fans that start dissing wrestling. Those people were never fans in the first place that were dissing wrestling. I never become that. I always think fondly of wrestling. I will always think about the great times, and then, I smile, from time to time, and then somebody if I stop, may tell me from time about a new wrestler that's coming along, and I'll probably ask sometimes about it, what's going on with such and such. I've met fans like that who don't watch anymore, but they still positive about wrestling. And I ask you about how certain wrestlers are doing, if they still wrestling and stuff. I'll be one of those guys. I never wanted to be that. I always wanted to be the wrestling fan that stuck with it. And they run me off. And it's possible that they run me off. Maybe I can stay if they do, but they're going to have to, they have a short window, a short period of time to do it right before I'm gone. It's like that person that looks back at a relationship, whether it be with a romantic partner or a family member or a business partner, and you think back on the good times and you still smile when you think about them. You want to remember the good times and not the bad. Remember the way they used to be. And that's how it be for me in professional wrestling. I always think about, those times. And I never thought I would. I stayed loyal, and I just thinking about, I just think about, all the moments.
Going silent.
All the emotions, all the joy it would bring. I used to be so excited, I couldn't even think straight. I'd be so excited, and I'd get everything together. I'd get all I eat my food and maybe have a few snacks. I'd eat early, or I'd do some more hours. And try to get home so I could watch wrestling. I'll cut conversations short, and I'm a fast individual. I try to be nice to people, but I would end like I said, wrestling's about to come on. And people know, oh, okay. I said, I'll talk to you later. I appreciate you. And we'll talk and catch up and build later on. As always, I'd be like, it's always tomorrow, or later on after wrestling goes off. They say, man, I gotta go watch wrestling. They would laugh and smile. They would say, we talk again, can we meet again? And I go, all right. So it's like, all right. You know, and I was going to watch wrestling and stuff like that. You know, and for like those hours I was watching wrestling, I was in a whole new universe, a whole new world of the screen. That's just the only thing that existed. You know, if I was depressed or something was going wrong, you know, I knew that was an escape. I knew I could watch that, and then it was like for like, you know, for an hour or two or maybe 3, I didn't have to think about anything but that. And then I could worry about all my problems later. You know, it's like, you know, I could watch wrestling and I could push that off. And that would get me through sometimes, because like, you know, it's always like knowing that, you know, everything is not always bad. And, you know, sometimes you can escape your problems. You know, just sometimes you just have a human moment where you're just having fun and you get excited about stuff that carry you through. You know, and that's the thing that wrestling was for me. You know, it was like nothing else existed in the world while it was on. And that was something that helped me cope with other things. It's like I said, well, okay, if nothing's going good, I know for 2 or 3 hours, I'm going, you know, back in the day was an hour. I know I'm going to be having fun and I'm going to be having this shit. And I can look forward to it. It's like if I knew, oh, this week going to suck, that's going to be good. Oh, wrestling's going to be good. Did I have that anymore? It's sad for me. It's very sad. Man, I think about it, man. You know, there was a time where I thought, what would I do without professional wrestling, sports entertainment? And now I'm gonna find out. I was hoping it would never come to this point. Thanks y'all for hanging in there with me, man. Oh, you know, and some of y'all have made it easy for me. You know, talk to a wrestling fan, it's like being with family. You know, when you talk to a wrestling fan, even if they're strangers, it's like family. We're not strangers for long. You know, especially the passionate ones that have been in it for life. You know, lifelong fans have been watching them for years. You know, even if they're not lifelong fans, but people are passionate about been watching it for a good season, for a certain amount of time. You know, enough that they can kind of sit there and talk to you about it, and you can have fun talking to them. We always like family as soon as we start talking. I've talked to people who watch wrestling and I'd never met them before, and we talked for hours. And we were like the best of friends. They became like family. You know, so my connection to y'all and some of the encouragement y'all given me when I've done these videos, and you know, and just y'all support me and everything. You know, I miss stuff like that. I miss it. You know, and it was always fun. You know, to talk to other wrestling fans. You know, even when we were complaining about the bad stuff, it was still fun. It was therapeutic. You know, and I want to thank you all. And I appreciate your support and your time. You never know how much. You know, and I hope we can get through this. You know, and as other wrestling fans like me, I hope we can all get through this. And we can come out on the other side of this. Some of us may all be leaving right now. You know, some of us may stick around. You know, some have already left. But, you know, to true wrestling fans, I thank you. And I appreciate you. There's nothing like it, right? I will see you down the road. And I thank you. Like I keep saying, I know I keep saying it. I appreciate you so much. This is Damon Hancock from the Pro Wrestling Movement series. Goodbye for now. And once again, thank you, and have a good one.
Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy C-Jax back with another video, and today we had the Raw after WrestleMania. Okay, this episode was boring and trash. Now, I understand that last night, you know what I'm saying, we had a pretty solid night of WrestleMania, and so therefore I enjoyed it, of course. But this night was garbage, and let's be real, we all knew this was coming. That's why I said that Triple Fraud, you know what I'm saying, still needed to lose his job. And before we even get into this Monday Night Raw episode, we are going to talk about a very pressing matter and report that's been getting, you know what I'm saying, I've been getting to set in my DMs, you know what I'm saying, on Twitter, you know what I'm saying, on YouTube, I've been getting told to look at this. So, we're going to talk about this this report here that comes out involving TKO. Now, it's been revealed that Triple Fraud is allegedly a scapegoat for TKO. They apparently use him to promote events and shows while he handles the weekly booking, mid-card, and lower card. But when it comes to the main event scene at major PLEs, those decisions are decided by TKO. Now, when you look at the actual interview, you know what I'm saying, the full quotes from, what's it called? What's the dude's name? I think it's Jeff Shapiro. I forget the dude's name. Yeah, Mark Shapiro. That's what his name is. Mark Shapiro in this interview basically was defending the fact of, you know, a lot of celebrity involvement, like from Logan Paul and Pat McAfee, he named as a few, you know what I'm saying, examples, as a part of a growth strategy where they're trying to branch out and make the business more mainstream and things of that nature, and they're focused on the bottom dollar. Obviously, you know what I'm saying, I can see how this hurts the company because of the ticket prices, of course, and obviously, you know what I mean, you know, when you're having bad week-to-week shows, obviously this is going to hurt the company when you're just supercharging fans in order to consume professional wrestling. But like I said, this is the context of what's being said. They're talking about, first of all, this is what they say in the interview, Mark Shapiro says this, first of all, control. We are responsible, good and bad, fact or fiction, right, for having Hollywood tie-ins and celebrities and stars like Logan Paul and Pat McAfee. So in the context of what they're talking about, they're saying, yes, they do have final responsibility, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to the final decisions for these mainstream celebrities coming in and out of the fray. And they're also saying, obviously, that at the major PLEs, they do have the final say and the final control over the outcome of, you know what I'm saying, the main event scene and all that other stuff. However, the weekly booked shows, as says in a tweet, the weekly booked shows suck. And who is booking the week-to-week shows according to TKO and according to this report? Triple Fraud. So with that being said, we can all agree that the week-to-week shows for the last year and a half have been horrible.